Hello everyone, so now it's the time and welcome to join our live discussion about 2023 AMC8 that was ended, the official competition period ended about 12 hours ago, and because we are broadcasting through different platforms, so I need to do a little bit checking. So I see there are already many active discussion in the Zoom, and so I believe that in Zoom you could see me and you can hear my voice. If that is true, could you type 25 in the chat? And in YouTube, if you could see me and if you could see the donut, could you type rabbit in the chat so that I know definitely you could hear me? And for those in the WeChat 小鹅, if you see me, can you type 2023? Okay, so I know that Zoom is working fine, and let me check with yes, the YouTube channel seems fine, and anyone in the WeChat 小鹅 could you put 在小鹅通里的同学可以在互动里打一个字幕2023或者 rabbit 吗？所以这样我确定一下声音是可以听到的。All right, one moment. Okay. All right, so I see some people still joining. So maybe we wait for one more minute and then we officially start. So if you have any feeling about this AMC8, you can put it on chat. And generally speaking, I think some people says that, and these times the AMC8 is slightly difficult than last year. Sorry, one moment. There's one more setting I need to handle properly. Then we start. Okay, so now I think all the platform looks fine, so we're going to officially start our discussion. So first we are going to discuss the difficulty of this AMC8, And of course, there are about slightly more than 1,000 participants in Hong Kong and Macau, which I have the statistics. And so first, let's discuss this question. So among the 25 questions, and which one is the most difficult one? So if you have your comments, you can put it on chat, and then we could see that who gets the correct answer. I think in most of the chat, I could see your image, or I could see your name. And I do see some people guess the correct ones. And normally, I think the situation would be the last 5 questions are the difficult ones. And so the answer probably would be within, let's between 20 or 20 to 25. Okay, so now, but you cannot guess all of the numbers. So actually, for me, I think after I see the problems, and even without solving all of them, I made the guess, and it turns out to be the correct one. So here I do see some correct ones. So any comments in WeChat Xiaoe or from the Think Academy, and so I do see there are many correct answers in Zoom, and let me praise those who get the correct answer. And so that is Bowen Zhang gets the correct answer, as well as Alex and Helen Zhang, and who else? Adam and Hu Shanxiang, as well as, and you cannot guess, it's 20 to 25. And Jerry Zhang, as well as Sophie Huang, as the Anna Zhou, as well as, you cannot guess too many, and then, and yes, and you know the answer, and in YouTube, I think 我系夏至 get it the correct answer, while I haven't seen any chat, any response in Xiaoe yet. Okay, so the most difficult questions is 24, and if you still remember that, and that is a triangle problem related to areas. So here I'm going to show you the statistics, and based on Hong Kong and Macau, about the difficulty levels. And what you could see that, of course, 24 is the most difficult one. Then what would be the next? The next is actually 25. And hopefully you'll still remember that is a number series problem. Okay, so next is problem 20, right? So problem 20 is what? I think problem 20 is actually I forgot. We are going to show you I'm going to show you the problem one by one, and but of course that cannot displayed in one page. Oh, the problem 20 is the statistic problem. Yeah, it's about the range, the median, and the mode. So that is problem 20. And the next one is problem 4. That is the solid geometry problem. And which one is number 5? And from that, you could see that the number 5 should be this problem 21. And that problem 21 is what problem? And that is so that is about, you separate 1, 2, 3, 1 up to 9 into 3 different groups. It's actually kind of related to, in my view, related to magic square problems, which is in line with our association name. Okay, so now this is the most difficult 5 questions. Alright, so now next, let's guess another interesting thing. And definitely, I think that would be a little bit harder to guess the correct answer. So let me specify the rule. Everyone can only type one number. And in the chat, if you type more, then your answer will be voided. So normally, we know how much time we have for each question. So this is a 25 question exam that takes 40 minutes, right? And so definitely it's less than 2 minutes per question. And so now we count it more accurately, we can in terms of the seconds. So 40 minutes is 40 times 60 seconds, right? And for that one, and so divided by 25. So how to calculate that? The quickest way to do that is we can get 2400 divided by 25, but do not do the long division. So here what we use is we use the fact that 25 times 4 is 100. So 24 times 100 divided by 25. 100 divided by 25 is 4. It's actually 24 times 4. So it's 96 seconds, right? So today I'm going to discuss for each problem what are the actual steps that I do. So similar like here, if you know that 100 is 4 times 25, then you can make the calculation slightly quicker. So in a sense, AMC8 is like a 100-meter race. So everyone can walk 100 meters if there's no time limit. But if you want to finish the 100 meters as fast as possible, then that's a big challenge. So similar like AMC8. So the key thing is we need to solve each question as fast as possible. Yes, some people also make the comments that this 96 seconds means 1.6 minutes. And also one important thing that you have to build up your capacity if you want to excel in AMC8, you have to read the problems fast and accurate. So there would be the cases that the problem is long, that you already probably take 30 seconds, half a minute to finish reading the problem, and then you only have 1 minute to solve the question. Okay, so now let's see if any guess. And so people still guess that the problems that spend most of the time would be kind of like would be in 20 something, but so think about statistically, that would unlikely to be the case. Why? Because in the competition, of course, we have very strong students, and we have to see that we have some slightly weaker students or lower grade students, and in that sense, they cannot finish all the 25 questions. So in which means they will spend 0 seconds on the last few questions. So then when you take the average, so for the last few questions, it won't take the most time. Okay, so now let me check the answer and see if anyone get it right. I see we do see some correct answers, and for those in 小额 and you can actually put it 在小额通的同学可以把答案贴在互动栏里啊。Okay, so I do see some people get it right, and there actually turns out to be many correct answers. Let me see. Not that many, but still something. Okay, so the first correct answer I think came from Ethan Cao, and then followed by Maxwell G. Dot, and followed by Tianzhi, as well as who else? And it's all about these 3 people, and yes, as well as I think in YouTube and Xiaoe, I don't see any correct answer. Okay, so now here is the statistics. Okay, so these are the 20. So the problem that people spend the most time is actually problem 14. So that is about the middle of the competition, and Also, that question is actually, if you remember that is a little bit hard to remember if you don't have the problems on hand. So that is a stamp problem. So we have about some stamps. We want to have as many stamps as possible. So this would be that. Okay, so and then what's the next? The next is actually problem 11. What is that question? So normally when it is about a calculation problem, and then it takes more time for people to do it. And problem 11 is actually the NASA, the Predators rover problems, which is actually just to calculate the speed. And what else? So what is problem 15? That also people takes more time on it. And the problem 15, oh, that is also actually related to the speed, which is the travel along the blocks where you have the detour. That is that problem, right? So you see that that takes about 3 minutes, right? But if we look at that first question, yes, first question takes about 30 seconds. So what is the best? So what is the best strategy if your goal is to achieve like top 1% or the full mark? So that would be you have to finish about, within a minute you finish probably the first 10 questions, and then that saves, right? So that's 10 minutes, and then there's another 30 minutes then you spend for the last 15 questions. So then you would have about 2 minutes for each question. So that would be the idea. All right. So now what we are going to do is, and we are going to discuss the the problem one by one, and of course, and I will not follow the order. I will do it in the reverse order, because definitely I think that people are interested in the harder question. So now I counted the number of people in from the 4 different platforms, and let me do addition. Yes, okay. So now the number of participants is already reached more than 260. Okay, so now let's start our problem 25. So you see, like in the screen, and what I display to you is I displayed all the problems in 3 formats: in English, in traditional Chinese, as well as in simplified Chinese, which means normally I have very limited space to do my work. So I will try to do not wiggle the screen, so just keep it there. So which means normally for most of the problem, you don't need to write too much. You don't need to calculate too much. Then you should be able to get the answer. Okay, so now first let's read that problem 25. So they see that 15 integers are arranged in order on the number line, and they are equally spaced, right? So here, when you see the keyword equally spaced, and without seeing the other conditions, so what should be the other word, the other phrase that appear in your mind, right? So this is about the fundamental knowledge, whether you have the relevant basic knowledge that equipped for AMC8, right? So when all the numbers are equally spaced, and actually there's I hope that you know the keyword that is called arithmetic sequence, right? 等差数列. And for that, once you respond that these arithmetic sequence, now what is going to be the next thing? The next thing you should naturally appear in your mind would be the next phrase, and that is a common difference, right? So how to determine arithmetic sequence? That means you only need to determine the first term, right? The first term is A1, and then the next term would be the first term plus D, A1 plus D, and then A2 plus 2D, and so on, right? So that would be that sequence. Right, so that is how we get the arithmetic sequence. So without seeing the next condition in my mind, actually I have the idea would be probably we have to try to see if we can figure out A1, we can figure out D, right? So that is my idea. Okay. So now next you see the condition. The condition is actually three conditions, which the range for the three, which is the range for three particular terms. The first term, the second term, and the 15th term. And so after that, of course, I know this question would not be that difficult. In a sense, if you can do a computer programming, what you do, A1 is between 1 to 10. So there are 10. So there are 10. So there are 10 different possible cases, right? So what about A2? A2 from 13 to 20, that is how many possible cases? That is not 7 possible cases, that's 8 possible cases. 20 divided by 20 minus 13 plus 1, there's 8 possible cases, right? So you enumerate 80 cases, then you get it. However, that's too many, right? So we cannot finish in 1 minute. So then we look at the last the condition, which is A15. So you mean A15 is what? A15 is in a range. So the distance between A1 and A15 is somehow controlled, is restricted, right? So the other way to see it would be that is also would be related to the basic knowledge. Can you express A15? Because our idea when we talk about algebra, our idea is we always have the idea about equation in mind, right? So there are two unknowns somehow, right? A1 and the common difference D. So what we do? Then what we think is A1, so that is because, so here be careful, that is plus 14D, right? It is not 15D, right? Because 15D, then it would be 15D, then it would be 15 terms with the first term, there's 14 differences, right? 14D, right? Okay, so now what you get? So you see that in order to make these numbers big, probably the most important contribution would be D rather than A1 because the coefficient is big. So now what are the calculations we do? So, so all this analysis actually in the purple ink is I finish while I reading the problem, right? So that is would be within the 20 seconds, right? Okay. And okay, so now what we do is now I can do a division, right? So what division we do? I use the 200, maybe I just use the 241 divided by 14. I see what would be roughly the D, right? So you get the quotient 1, so 14, that will be 101, that is 17, as quotient 7, that's 98, and then remainder 3. Okay, so now what we have? What we have is, that means what we can express is now let's think about what we get. We get 241, that is 14 times 17 plus 3. And yes, this already we already make it the form of this A1 plus 14D, right? So that is what we think. But of course, we don't know whether this is true or not. We need to have a check. So if A1 is 3, yes, we can make A1 is 3. And actually, we can make A1 bigger, right? We can make A1 is 4 and so on, right? But then let's check. If A1 is 3 and D is... If A1 is, right, so here what we do need to do a check is A1 is 3, and then A2 is, and D is 17, then what will be A2? A2 is happen to be 3 plus 17, which is 20. Okay, so now we are extremely happy, right? We construct one example, right? Because it's a multiple choice, if you construct one example, so then you can stop. Now what's next? What's next is you need to calculate A14, right? So, but what is the best way to calculate A14? So I know, of course I know A14 is A1 plus 13 times D, and then you can calculate. Is that a good way? No, that is not a good way. Yes, I see. Yes, if you have any comments, feedback, you can put it down chat. Yes, I just see Anthony make a very nice comment in the chat, which is what is the quickest way to calculate is we go from A15, which is already got, and then minus D. And then that is much quicker because it's 241 minus 17 is 224, right? And so now what would be the answer? The answer is 2 plus 2 plus 4, 2 plus 2 plus 4 is, so the answer would be 8, right? Okay, so that's why you see definitely we should be able to find, as long as you have the basic knowledge about arithmetic sequence, then you should be able to find the answer within, even if not 1 minute, I think 2 minutes should be enough. And even if you are not that lucky enough that A1 is 3, D is 17, you can wiggle a little bit, and then you can get the answer, right? So that's problem 25. Yes. All right. So, okay. Now let's move on to problem 24. Yes, this question is actually the most difficult question in my view. So this situation says that we have the isosceles triangle, and in this isosceles triangle, you can construct two shaded regions. One is kind of like, you determine it's kind of like similar like you can treat this as a bottle or something, and then the shaded region would be kind of like water, and you put it in two different ways, and then you get that how you can measure the height of the water. So the two shaded regions have the same area, and then they know some height. So what is the best way to tackle this, right? And so it's talking about that they have the same. So why this question I think is difficult, because for me, and at first when I read this question, yes, it has different. Yes, it has different. It has the same area, the two shaded region, but I don't know the base. And if you arguably, you can see that you know the height, right? So the height of this is h minus 5. And the height of this is h minus 11. So arguably speaking, you can talk about the height, but still you don't know the base, right? So that is the challenging part. And so then what would be the aha moment for me to tackle this question is, I also have this kind of idea about kind of unknowns, about equations. So we can see we have two different areas. So I will name this area as a white region. So if I name this as W, and I can name this as W as well, right? So these two should have the same area, and then for the two gray regions, they have the same area, and we have this isosceles triangle. So maybe I name the total area as, oops. So I name the total area as I. So what do we have? So what we will have is, of course, the white region plus what we get is the white region plus the gray region is the whole area. And then what we can change is a little bit, which means I want to know what is the portion of the gray region versus to the whole isosceles triangle, and what is the portion of the white region versus the whole isosceles triangle. They add up to be 1, right? They add up to be 100%. And now, then what we can do? Then we have something nice. Why we have something nice? So look at here. Can we associate with what is the ratio of the wet area to the whole area? So this would be what we have seen, that it would be similar triangle, right? So the white one is a slightly smaller isosceles triangle versus the big one, and the ratio would be the corresponding line segments. So that would be the corresponding height. So which means here what we can write is we can write this as h over 11. Sorry, that should be wrong, right? So it would be 11 over h, and then we have a square, right? Because it's about area, right? So this is one ratio. Well, then what about the other one? What does about the other one? The other one would be, and okay, so please focus on my explanation for those people in chat. So I'm going to disable the chat for a while. Okay, so you can still chat to me about your comments about how to deal with a similar triangle. So I will mention the name if you get it, if you get some nice idea. Okay, so now what we have is we have one part, right? So we also need to deal with the other part. Give me 1 minute. Okay, so what's the other part? The other part we should look at the other figure, right? So the other figure would be what? Would be this one, right? And so that would be what? So the gray area is on the top isosceles triangle, so it would be h minus 5 over the whole height h square, and that plus add up together, that is 1, right? And for this one, so once you have kind of like understand that, you should feel happy. Yes, so here, yes, the two area has the two white have the same area, the two gray have the same area. So that's essentially give us two equations. If you think about from the point of equations, from in algebra, you do substitution for the identical things, you will get that. So this is equation. When I see for this equation, the first my reaction to me would be what? Would be this as a quadratic equation, right? Because it has square. But you know, because I don't have enough places, so I will go a little bit faster. So the common denominator is what? The common denominator is h squared, right? The common denominator is h squared. So you move to the other side, then you have this. And once you have this, you should feel happy. Why? Because this is definitely not really a quadratic equation. As when you expand out, you get h squared minus 10h plus 25 plus 121, that equals h squared, right? Okay, so then the 2h squared cancel out. Then you get what? Then you get 10h equals 146, right? So h, of course, is just 14.6. So A is the correct answer. Okay, so that is the idea of using similar triangles. But how to build up the equation? You need to, if you have the algebraic idea about the algebra sense about doing substitutions, then you may get it. And so let's think, so for this question, because it's the most difficult one, so I want to talk a little bit more. And so why this question is difficult? Because I think the reason why I assume this question is difficult than problem 25 would be, for problem 25, no matter whether you directly get the answer or you do some variation, you can work on it, right? Because it's workable, it's calculable, it can be calculated. As I mentioned, that in the worst case, you do the 18 cases, you will definitely get the answer. However, for these plane geometry problem, it's hard that if you got stuck, if you didn't notice that these similar triangle idea, then you cannot solve it. You cannot calculate. There's nothing you can calculate. But then, so here, now I'm going to tell you a kind of like not an official method, but also a method that can lead us the answer. They see that, which is, so what is the idea? The idea is, definitely you know the idea for some simple questions. So the idea is you consider a special case, right? A special value, or because once you have the special case or special value, and you can get the numbers, and because it's multiple choice, so there will be only one answer. Now, what would be the special case? So let me share the experience with you. So that is about 33 years ago, when I was attending the AMC8 equivalent in mainland China. So there's a multiple question. There's a multiple choice question. That question is also related to triangle, and I cannot solve that. And so that is a multiple choice question. It is A, B, C, D, and then I make a choice based on what special value. And that question is talking about what is the maximum area of something. Then I think maximum area, right? More symmetry. So what I do, then I assume the special case, which is equilateral triangle, right? All the three sides are equal, and then I do the calculation and make the selection. And but unfortunately, I guess it's wrong, because it turns out to be the correct answer related to another type of special triangle, which is called isosceles right triangle. So here, why I share this example, so here, they say that it's isosceles triangle. So you can see, you can choose a special type of isosceles triangle. Similarly, you may think just what I did 33 years ago, you guess what happens if it would be equilateral triangle. If it is not the case, then how about we deal with isosceles right triangle? Actually, if you deal with isosceles right triangle, you will find that this question is calculable. So I do not have enough space, so I'm going to still keep the original picture, but I'm going to draw my special case in another way. So what would be my special case? Isosceles right triangle. Oh wow, that's so nice. Why? Because if I have isosceles right triangle, so this is 11, so that would be perpendicular to the base, and also it's bisect the base as 11 and 11, and then things go on. So that would be one picture, right? So sorry for my ugly drawing and my, because, it's not because I'm fat, so I have to draw fat triangles, because isosceles triangle, in this case, is really relatively fat, right? So, and so what is the next one is, S will be h minus 5, similar, but it's still an isosceles right triangle, right? And, but, so here is h minus 5, so here is h minus 5, here is h minus 5. You see, this is very nice. And then you see 5, that you see h. So what do you get? You get everything, right? So then it's calculable, right? So it's calculable. Why it is calculable? If we calculate the w, what would be that? So in here, the w would be just, can you directly write down the number? The w will be just 11 square, right? Because the two isosceles right triangle, we can fit it, then you fit it square, right? And then you get that. And so now next is, so next would be, we need to calculate what? We need to calculate the area of these isosceles trapezoid, right? So trapezoid, how to calculate that? It would be h minus 5 plus h, so this is only half of it, right? Divided by 2, so that times the height 5. But because we have 2, so what I'm calculating here is actually calculating this part, right? So then the whole thing would be times 2, right? So which cancel out these 2. So then what we get? So what we get? We get equation 121, which is 11 squared, equals 5 times 2h minus 5. And then what we get? We get 24.2 and equals 2h minus 5, and that also gives h equals 14.6. So that is what I mean by doing a special value, right? And then you can really make this question calculable and then get the answer. Of course, and you see, we talk too much about this question. That takes about 10 minutes, and we're supposed to only have 96 seconds to solve it. All right, I think gradually we can solve the question quicker and quicker. All right, so problem 23. Okay, so problem 23, and I know probably some people it's a little bit boring. So what I would encourage you is, if you see this question and if you already solve it, can you type the keywords? So that is how we do the review, right? When you solve a question, how you learn from this question and to build up your capacity, and then you can solve the other questions quicker and more accurate. So what would be the keywords after you solve this question? So for those of you in YouTube and Xiaoe, you can type your comment in the chat, and so that I can respond. Yes, this is a probability question, of course, and so this is I think this would be definitely a true statement for probably another 5-10 years. So in each AMC8 there will be at least one probability problems. So what the thing I want to see is, when you see this kind of question, so what is the idea? So how to do the calculation? What is the idea you think to do the calculation? And so to me, I think that would be this basic knowledge, which is multiplication principle. So what does it mean, multiplication principle? Then it means, and you only need to consider different. So multiplication principle is you consider the cases by steps, right? So first they say there to be a diamond type. So also it has to be a 2 by 2, right? So like in this example, what we have is we have these 2 by 2, right? So then the first step is actually would be how many 2 by 2 grades in these 3 by 3. And that, I think, probably upgrade 1 or grade 2 primary school problem. Definitely we know the answer. The answer is 4, right? So the diamond, which means the diamond, if it is pure, it can be in 4 of the 2 by 2 squares. So now we have a factor 4. And then what would be the one would be the probability to have a diamond in 1 2 by 2, right? So then what does it mean? It means for each one, right? For example, for this one, it has to be that format, right? Which is upper left white, lower right gray. So there will be only one of the 4 cases. So which means, so here we have a 1 over 4, and for that grade to fill with by which tile, we also have a 1 over 4. So here is 1 over 4, and here is 1 over 4, right? So if you have the notion of the multiplication principle in mind, especially here, there are lots of symmetry. So what we get is we just do that 4 times 1 over 4 times 1 over 4 times 1 over 4 times 1 over 4, and these cancel out, right? So finally we get 1 over 64, right? Finished. So that's problem 23, right? For these kind of questions, really we can finish it very quick, right? Okay, so now next, problem 22. So for problem 22, that is another sequence problem, which is called the recursive sequence. So after the first 2 terms, each term is a product of the previous one. So naturally, right? So what we do is we just use we just set up some algebra, list out all the terms in that. So it will be A, the first term, the second term B, the third term would be A times B. what would be the third term? The first term would be AB times AB, so it would be AB squared. And so what would be the fifth term? The fifth terms would be uh, um, AB times AB squared, so that would be A squared B cubed. And so the next one would be these two A B squared times A squared B cubed, that would be A 3 B to the fifth. And of course, and so this is this is a very relevant question related to 2023. Why is that? Because, and if you look at the coefficients of the if you look at the exponents, and that is actually Fibonacci sequence, right? And for Fibonacci sequence, what is another name for Fibonacci sequence? And that is called the rabbit sequence. And 2023 is the year of rabbit, right? So in that sense, so this is a very relevant question. And yes, to make you feel happy, I do have a rabbit here to solve the question with us, okay? And now let's see how to solve it. And so to solve it, then that will be a simple equation a cube b to the fifth, and that is 4,000. Okay, so for 4,000, what we do, and so here there comes another basic knowledge that you should definitely come out, and that is prime decomposition, right? So how to do the prime decomposition of what? It's 4,000. It's just like 4 is 2 times 2. It's 1,000. What is 1,000? 1,000 is 2 times 5 to the power of 3. And then you get 2 to the power of 5 times 5 to the power of 3, right? Then once you do the factorization, immediately what they ask the first term, which they ask A. Then of course A is 5, right? Because you have to set up the linkage, right? So A is 5, right? Because 3 is 3. So here 5, 5. So B is 2, right? Okay, so then we get it, right? So, you see, to me, like 24 and 25, you need to take a little bit of thinking. But for 22 and 23, it's really, it's really simple, right? It's pretty much a straightforward question, okay? So now let's move on to 21. So 21, they say that, okay, so they say that you have to put 1, 2, 3, 9 into 3 groups and 3 numbers each, so that the sum of the 3 numbers in each group is the same. So these remind me to think about what? These remind me to think about a magic square, right? We can put 1 to 9 in a 3 by 3 grid, so that each row, each column, not only each row, each column, but also diagonal have the same sum, and that sum is 15. 15 is 1 plus 3, 1 plus 2 plus 3 plus 9, up to 9 is 45. 45 divided by 3 is 15, so it would be 15, right? So what we put is, we put 5 here in the middle, and then what we have, and let's see what we have. Probably it will be 2, and then that will be 8, and that will be 6, that will be 1, 4, and so that is 9. What else? And that is 3, and that is 7, right? Okay, so this would be the magic square. That probably it's already there, right? And so this is also talking about, so this is for AMC8. It's a competition. It's kind of similar like the sports Olympic Games, right? So the more knowledge you do, of course it helps you, right? If I assume that, for many primary school students in mainland China, they know that, and that will definitely help them to solve the question, right? Because immediately you get we get 2 possible methods, right? Which is 9, 5, which is the 3 rows, which is 2, 7, 6. That is one group, and then 9, 5, 1, and 4, 3, 8. And so that would be the rows, and then what would be the columns is 2, 9, 4, 7, 5, 3, and 6, 1, 8, right? So at least you can exclude, right? So at least you can exclude 2 possible choices, right? And now what shall we do next is whether we can find other possibilities. So how to deal with other possibility, but at least we get one. So what we can start with, so this time how we argue, and actually there's no other choice, would be you can start with 9. If you start with 9, what happens, right? You see, if you start with 9, and what happens? If you start with 9, the other two remain, the other two numbers would be, has the sum of 6, which can be only 1 plus 5, or 2 plus 4, or 3 plus 3, right? So if it's 1, 5, 3, 3 is not possible, then you have repeated, then there will be 9, 2, 4, which is exactly correspond to the 2 previous cases. Now next, what we think is how we deal with 8, right? So 8, of course, we cannot do 1, and we could have 2, and then, so that's why we have, no, 2 is not work, because 8 plus 2 plus 5 would be 5 repeated, right? So it has to be 8, 3, 4, and then the remaining one has to be 7, 2, 6. So these would be which we only get back to the first existing split, right? So what about the other one? So 8, yes, 8 we can do 1, 6, so that would come back to this one. But are there any others? So 8, 2 is not possible because 2 is already used. 8, 3, then the 8, 3 leads to 8, 3, 4. That is 4 repeated, so no other ways, right? So there's only 2 ways, right? So essentially, for this question, the quickest way is that first you use the magic square to immediately get 2, and that takes no time, and then you can do a little bit of check, or you can do a little bit of intuition to see whether there are other possible choices or not. Okay, so that's problem 21, and hopefully we can get things quicker and quicker. And so problem 20, yes, so that's the problem that is also relatively hard. So how to deal with it? So that means we have 3 things. The range means of course, there are 3 key numbers that you need to know the definitions. And remember that to me, each time I see these statistics, it reminds me of M chocolate, because it's all the things, all the definitions are related to the letter start with M, right? So although the range starts with R, this range is actually means max minus, right? Max minus mean, right? And so then we have the mode, we have the median. The mode is the most frequent number. So what is the mode in this question? Of course, it's 3, right? 2, 3 appear twice. And what is the medium, original medium? It would be 8. So what would be the range? The range is 28 minus 3. That is 25. Okay, so now you have to double, right? You have to double the range and keep all the other things the same. So what we do is we can see, okay, so medium is 8. So there will be, add up the other numbers, so there will be still 7 numbers, right? So the median is still the middle number. So it means, okay, so we have to put the 8 here, and less than 8, there will be 2, 3. And then what else? We have 11, and we have 28. And so then we know that we need to add a number here, and we need to add a number here. But we want to make them as big as possible. So what are the possible cases? So 3 can 3 appear 3 times? Yes, we can, right? Because 3 can appear 3 times, and then that's still the mode, and then 3, 3, 3, and 8. And now 11, 28, because the range is 50, the double range would be 50. So this has to be 3 times 25 times plus 25 times 2, which is 53, right? Okay, so now what you get, and then you get this, right? So 3 plus 53, so that leads to 56. But normally for this question, if you only get A, and they ask for the maximum one, probably you to me at least, I feel a little bit unsafe. I want to see whether I can change it a little bit. So the range is fixed, right? The range is 50. So if I want the smaller number to be, if I want, the range is fixed, it's 50. So here we have 3, and then we have 53, and then we get 4, and of course the other side is still 53, which is something that you cannot change. So if the missing number at the beginning missing number is less than 3, then what happens? It will be, it's definitely 3, 3, right? It's definitely 3, 3, but so here has to be 8. So here the missing number, and this number has to be fixed. It must be 53, right? So then we have 11 and we have 28. But we can make this number as bigger as possible, right? It's the integer, so as bigger as possible, but we cannot make it the mode, right? So 8 cannot be repeated. So it has to be 7, right? So then what we get will be 7 plus 53, right? So that means the correct answer is 60, right? Finished, right? So for all these, so for many AMC problems, similar like the problem 20 or problem 21, so it's just like a little bit of numerical calculation. Then immediately you get it, right? Okay. So this is all there will be the elegant thinking that you need to build, right? Okay. So next one, problem 19, right? So that is again a geometry problem, right? And for that geometry problem, and it sees that, okay, so there are 2 equilateral triangles. The smaller one, there's a bigger one. What they want, they want the ratio, right? So they want the ratio. Once we have the ratio, and that means we can assume, right? We can assume the side length is whatever the way you want. You can just try to use integers and then set up some units, and then you calculate that, right? So the ratio is what? The ratio is 2 to 3, right? The ratio is 2 to 3, right? And for 2 to 3, and then what we can assume that we could assume that the bigger one is 2, the larger one is 3, and the smaller one is the larger one is 3, and the smaller one is 2. So what I mean is, then I start to work on the units. So then I assume the bigger one, the area would be 3 square units, which is 9 units, right? And then for the smaller one, inside it will be 2 square. And so because it's square, because we are talking about the area, right? So 9 versus 4, right? So once we get 9, we get 4, then what would be each trapezoid? It would be 9 minus 4 divided by 3, which is 5 over 3. Okay, so you see, this is a simple calculation. Then what's next? What's the area of the trapezoid versus versus the smaller one versus this, and then you multiply 3 on for both numbers, and it will be 5 over 12, right? Finish. So that's problem 19. So gradually you will see that in the middle part of the AMC, this is more about one line equation, right? One line of calculation, then you get it. So that's problem 19. So next, problem 18, right? So this is about you have to jump either to the right 5 paths, or kind of like a little bit come back. That would be 3 paths, right? And so I see one comment in the chat which they say that, so in these AMC8, maybe there will be too many C's or whatever. So my suggestion that when you guess, if in the last few questions when you want to guess, and you could see whether the A, B, C, D, E are balanced or not, right? So in the last, for this particular AMC8, the last 2 questions are both A. But if you list out all the correct answers, you will see from the previous 23 questions, if I remember correctly, there's probably only 2 A's. So in that case, if you guess A, then probably you have more chance to make it right. And however, And this may not be the case. Maybe in some AMC it turns out in the next year AMC there could be only 3 problems that are C's. So this will not really give you something, but to me, when I design the exam, normally I will have A, B, C, D, E relatively balanced, right? So yes, it's you can have an exam where all the correct choices are E, but unlikely. So in that sense, probably if you do a little bit of statistics to do the guess, that still can help you. But of course, that is actually hard in the exam because you have very limited time. So then, what is the best way to do it? Is still you guess by your intuition. Now in AMC8 you can guess, but in AMC10, 12 probably you just leave it blank. All right. Okay, so now we have the meeting already lasted for about an hour, and so the schedule, because I don't know how fast I can go. Supposedly I should finish. I think normally when I solve the AMC8 question by myself, I can finish about in 25 minutes. But because I want to talk about some tricks, talk about some relevant things, so that's a little bit slow. But I do hope and I can close the meeting in half an hour. And in the end, I'm going to show you the statistics about the Hong Kong and Macau participants, as well as my guess for the top for the 1% and 5% cutoff. Okay, so let's restart and do a little bit quicker. So it's on the right 5 pads, and so we want to have the least number of jumps. Then that means what? Definitely we have to try to jump 5 pads as much as possible, right? So you have this intuition in mind. So naturally what you do is you do a division, right? So you do a division, you do 2023 divided by 5, and that is 4, that is 20, and 23, that is gives another 4, and that is 20, and that has a remainder 3. So it will be 4, 4, right? But be careful, you should not do 4, 4 plus 1, because this is wrong, because of what? These 3 means it has to be to the right. However, all our 3 has to be to the left. So what does it mean? It means what we want is we want 2023 plus 3 times something, because they have to jump back. But at the beginning, we want to have as many high as possible, but to make it multiples of 5. So what could be the case? So this would be the multiple of 5. Then what would be the case? Would be 2000, actually 35. And then here we have a 4, and then we know the answer, right? So 2035, then that means 2035 divided by 5. Actually, you can just from this a little bit, we know that it will be 407, and then plus that 4, that is 411. And so that would be the correct answer, right? So D is the correct answer. Okay, so now let's move on to problem 17. Yes, I think the problem 17 is relatively difficult. The thing is, so let's talk about the net of a cube versus a regular octahedron, right? So you need to use a piece of paper to follow with that. So the first thing I see in this question, when I first saw this question, is where is Q? They say Q is a face, right? But Q is actually lies on the edge. And then after I see it for 5-10 seconds, I noticed that. So Q is on the dotted edge, but it does not mean that. So Q is actually kind of like the left front face, right? So Q is the left front face, and what we are considering is the right front face. So that is the idea, right? So that is the idea. All right, so how to handle this? And yes, some people has good imagination, and some people may not. So what we do is, so what I'm going to show you is I'm going to try to show you a way that you don't know the imagination, you can still work on it. So what is the idea? The idea is that, so we have to glue, right? So how to glue is you can only glue the 2 sides together, right? And that is the way it happens, right? So you cannot glue 3 sides together. You have to glue 2 sides together, and then that forms a solid cube. If you have that, and then we can actually coloring the side. What does it mean, the coloring? So you'll see if these sides, where does it go with the other side? It has to be that, right? Because only these, then we have glue, and then you'll see that around that vertex, they will have 4 faces, right? So that would be the case. Now next, what is the glue? The glue must happen for this, right? So these must be the glue, right? Okay. So, but what we really care is we want to care the Q, right? So it's a little bit far away. But then you think, after you glue these two, then these two has actually become the same vertex, right? It has to become the same vertex. Then what does it glue to? So what does it glue to? It means this one must be glued to that one, right? And you can do a similar argument, which is these two actually has to be the same vertex. So next, what we glue is we have to glue these two things together, right? We have to glue these two things together. And then finally, what would be next? What's left would be we have to, right? What's left is we have to glue these two sides together, right? Which means the answer has to be 1, right? So that means, you know, for why the 3-dimensional thinking is hard, because it's 3-dimensional. However, if you focus on each particular vertex and then you come back to work on the plane, then the things becomes straightforward, right? So this question, the answer is A. All right, so now let's move on next. 16, right? So 16, you'll see the question is about PQR, PQR, PQR everywhere, alternating PQR, and you want to count, and you are requested to count how many PQRs are there, right? So that would be the situation. And what is the quickest way, right? We need to quick. So the quickest way, I think, is, okay, so, you know, I observe, right? So here we have, right? So here we have like PQR, you have PQR here. So what you observe is for every 1 by 3 or 3 by 1, so PQR will each appear 1. So the number of P equals, so PQR will kind of have, like, roughly speaking, PQR should have roughly the same number of there should be roughly the same number of PQR. As you can see, it's all about 130 something. So how to achieve this? So in order to achieve this, what we can think is, okay, so this is 20, right? So this is 20. So the one came to my mind is 20 is 3 times 6 plus 2, right? So which means I can have 3 here, right? I can have 3 here. Then all these things, I do not need to care because they have the same number of PQR. I only want to have the relatively size about that, right? So then the thing left, it would be P and Q. Now how about all the other rows? It's the same, right? So then the thing is we only need to care about the first 2 columns. Well, for the first 2 columns, now we can think, this time we can think vertically to think about 1, 2, 3, right? So these PQR each appear once, PQR each appear once, and so on, right? So PQR each appear once. Okay, so now which means now our focus would be only this, right? So our focus should be only this yellow one. Yellow one, and then what does it mean? What we can make a statement about that. So what we can make the statement is the number of Q's is 1 more than the number of P's or R's, right? So Q is 1 bigger than the P and R, so definitely it has to be C, right? You see there's no need to do any calculation. The only thing you need to know is 23 times 6 plus 2, then that's finished. That's problem 16. Now let's move on to problem 15. Yes, 15 is a little bit long, right? But let's think about the case. So the case would be, normally there will be 2 keywords. So normally it takes half the mile. and half a mile, so 0.5. So in the normal case, these students will walk 0.5 miles, and with how many blocks? With 10 blocks, right? So that would be this case. And then the other case, the detoured case would be, and so actually how many blocks they work? So 1 becomes 3. So actually you work 7 blocks, right? And so these has to be the same as the 5 blocks. They spend the same time as the working normal the 5 times. So this, what would be the speed? The ratio of the speed would be 7 over 5. So that would be 1.4. So they have to be 1.4 times faster than before. Now, what is this? The original time. They say that, and so each block is 1 minute. So 10 blocks is actually means what? 10 blocks actually means 10 minutes, right? So it's 10 minutes. For 10 minutes, how shall we deal with it? Would be, okay, so 10 minutes is 0.5 miles. So how to calculate the minutes per hour? The quickest way to calculate is you just see, okay, you times 6. Then that becomes 1 hour, right? And then you times 6. That becomes 3 miles. So that's why, and the original speed is 3 miles per hour. Now you have to do 1.4, then you get 4.2, right? Finished. Right. So this is pretty much the two-step word problem, right? All right, so now next, let's move on to problem 14. In problem 14, that is about the people, the problem that people spend the most time on. But still, it's not that difficult. So in my view, I'm looking at that. Okay, so they have 5 cents. So let's specify the question. So 5 cents stamp, they have 20, right? And 10 cents stamp, they have 20, and 25 cents stamp, they have 20 as well. And okay, so we want to have as many as possible to fix the $7.10. What we shall we have? We shall have as much 5 cents, as many 5 cents as possible, because then they contribute little value, but still we can have more stamps. So, but of course, using all the 5 cents is not good enough. So that is only 100 cents. Even using all the 10 cents is not good enough. That's only contribute 200 cents. So what we have to do? We have to use the 25 cents. Then what the remaining value? The remaining value is 710 minus 100 minus 200, and so that is 410. So we have to see 25 cents. We just reviewed at the beginning of our session, right? 25 times 4 is 100, right? In order to form at least 410, so how many 25 cent stamps we need to have? So 16 would be, if 25 times 4 is 100, 4 times 4 is 60. So 16 25 cents stamps would be 400 cents, but we need one more, so we need 17, and that would be 425. And now we need to do some adjustment, right? Because here is 50, here it's kind of like 50 cents more, so which means we have to make here 50 cents less. So what would be the ideal case? Definitely would be 15 cents times 19, 10 cents times 19, so that would be 15 cents more, right? Then that's finished, right? So 15 cents times 17, and then the answer would be, you do 19 plus 17, and so that is 55, right? This question, they ask what is the maximum number, and I do get the largest possible choice in the problem. Definitely, you can get it, right? Okay, so some people want to take the screenshot, but for screenshot, all the playback will be available on YouTube as well as on Xiaoe. Then you can take the screenshot if you want anytime later on. Okay, so now problem 13, and yes, problem 13 is again the word problem, and also for this question. So these, so each time, so when I see this question, what is the first thing that appears in my mind? It is +1, and so also it's related to the thing that I learned in my primary school. And so what does it mean? It means, okay, so you have from the starting point to the ending point of this bicycle race. Along the route, there are 7 water stations, but that 7 water stations has been divided the whole route into how many pieces? So it will be 1, 2, so up to 7 and 8. So it's actually there will be 8 intervals. So here, this 8 is not 7, so it's 7 plus 1. So that is what appears in my mind. Okay, so it's 7, 8 plus 1. So each interval is about 1/8 of the total distance. And now they say what about? They say that the third water station. So the third water station would be what? Then that would be 3 over 8, and relatively to the starting point. Now, what about the two they haven't drawn out? What about the other two, kind of like the repair station? The repair station, there are 2, so altogether there should be 3 intervals. So the first one is 1/3, right? So after you understand this plus 1 structure, and you directly do that speed. So that question is essentially a fraction subtraction, right? So then what you get is this is actually 24. 3 times 3 minus 8, which is 1 over 24. Okay, so for that 1 over 24, what we get? So this would be 1 over 24 is how many? 2 miles. So 24 times 2, so that would be 48 miles. Okay, finished, right? So this is really, gradually you'll see this is really 1 minute question. So how much time do we have? So up to the next round clock, we have 13 minutes, and now we have 12 problems to go. So now I'll try to finish each problem within a minute. Okay, so this question is about, again, is about fraction, or actually about the ratio. So this is also about the fraction, and also about the ratio. And so what I do, which means I can assume the size of the picture, so that to make my calculation easier. So what I assume, so I'm going to assume that the side length of each square is 2, but not 1, because I want to find, because the smallest circle, it is the half of the side length of this little square is a radius. So this would be 1, right? So what would be the radius of this? This would be 2. So what would be radius of this? This would be 4. And what would be the radius of this? This would be 6. And then now we can calculate the gray area. The gray area, what is the ratio? Then of course we have pi, but actually all this pi we can ignore. We only need to deal with r square part. So the total area is 6 square. So what will be the gray area on the left? The kind of like the face part, and with the 2 white eyes. So that will be 4 square minus 2 times 2 square, and then plus 1 square times 3. So what will be the result? 36. So 16 minus 8 plus 3. So that is 11 over 36. Finished, right? And so B is the correct answer. Right? So that is why you see that for the first 10 questions, really we can solve it fairly fast, right? So within a minute each problem. Okay. So I have 11, or I still spend 2 minutes. 2 minutes. Okay. Next question. I need to be quick. Okay, so that is about a speed, right? So that is about the speed, and the speed, they say they already give us the unit. So it will be miles per hour. So we have to see what about miles and what about the hours, right? So then from a division, you get it. How many miles? So the mile is 292,526,838. Yeah, so that would be miles. So how many hours? How many hours? First, we need to get how many days. And in each day, there will be 24 hours. And then we can get hours, right? So how many days are there? 6.5 months. 6.5 months. So 6.5 months. Every month we have about 30 days. So that will be 6.5 times 30 days, and then times 24 hours. Okay. So now, but these without a calculator, but we have to do estimation. But you see, all the choices are fairly far away, right? So in order to do the estimation, we can do it, just use whatever number that looks good. For example, 6.5 times 30, I'm going to round it to 200. So 24, I still leave it as 24. Well, 292, what I'm thinking. So then what I'm thinking is, I'm thinking about this. 24 times 12. And I want to see what do we get. We get 48, we get 24, we get 288. Right, how about I just round this 290 to 288. So I round this is 288 and then followed by 6 zeros. And then that will be cancelled out. Then it becomes 12 followed by 6 zeros. And then divided by 200. And now we can do the cancellation. So the cancellation would be what? The cancellation would be this, and then you get 6. So 6 followed by 4 zeros. Okay, so C is the correct answer. Okay, so problem 11 finishes. And now next, we move on to problem 10. So problem 10 is a fraction problem. But that fraction problem is also simple. Okay, so this made a plum pie to take to the picnic. He was able to eat 1/4, which means what? So the remaining part would be 3/4 for sure, right? So next, what happens? For these 3/4 and a moose ate 10 or 1/3 of them. So 3/4 times 1/3. So that means they eat another 1/4, right? So what's left? So how much left? They eat another 1/4. So this actually again 1/4. Definitely what's left is half, right? So half, and they eat 1/3 of it. And what's the remaining thing left? So they eat 1/3. The remaining side would be 2/3, right? So what you get, and then you get, and so it will be it would be 1 minus half minus 1/3 would be half minus 2/3 is actually 1/3, right? Okay, so D is the correct answer. Okay, so this is a simple fraction multiplication, right? Remember the water station problem is about fraction subtraction. Okay, so now let's move on. Oh, problem 9. So that is a curve. That is to rate a curve, right? So what is how many seconds does the shape span an elevation between 4 and 7 meters? 4 and 7 meters. Now where's 4 meters? 4 meters is here. Where's 7 meters? 7 meters is here. So we only need to know. So then what we need to know the corresponding time, right? So what would be the corresponding time? The corresponding time would be, so here it is 2, right? And then up to 4. Next, 6 up to 6 up to right, 6 up to 10. And what next? Next will be 12 up to 14. So what we have is 4 minus 2. So that is 2. And 10 minus 6, that is 4 seconds. And then 14 minus 12, that is 2 seconds. You add up together, 2 plus 4 plus 2. So that is 8 seconds, right? So the correct answer is B, right? So for that one, you only need to read the picture and you should be immediately get it, right? Okay, finished. And also, I just want to give you a sense. Right now I see that in the last 12 questions, 11 questions, I try to finish within each question. I try to finish it within 1 minute, but still I cannot achieve it because I still talk too much. So which means, so in the real computation, what you need to do is you need to directly, quickly get what is the correct method, and then immediately do the calculations and then move on, right? And for this one, right, it's talking about the tournament. 1 is win, 0 is lose. So what does it mean? The first thing I would like to calculate is, so because I want to calculate the questions quick, right? So I see how many wins are there. There will be 5. There will be there will be 3 wins, 2 wins. Okay, so but then we still don't know what would be the situation for that. What are you? And because we know, do we know how many games are there altogether? How many games are there? 4 times 6, right? Altogether, there are 4 times 6, 24 games played by all. Well, in each game, there are two one win, one lose. Altogether, there will be how many wins? So there should be 24 divided by 2, so that will be 12 wins. So we know that here they will have to have 2 wins, right? So this is what we get. If we have 2 wins, then we can at least exclude something, right? We can exclude this, we can exclude that, and then for the 2 remaining ones, now we don't know which one it is, which means now I understand the idea, because at the beginning I didn't read the question carefully, and now I understand the idea. So what we have to do is I have to for each column I have to make sure 2 win, 2 lose. And now then I immediately get what it is, right? So 2 win, 2 lose. So here we have a 1 win, 2 win already, so it must be a lose, right? And so next we have win, lose, win, so it has to be a lose. Next win, win, it has to be lose again. And then without doing anything, we know that BAS must be the correct answer. So that's problem 8. All right, so now let's move on to problem 7. Okay, so this is about a graphic problem, right? So of course, if you nowadays most of the AMC8 happens online, so we need to be a little bit careful, and it's hard to draw, but we can still imagine, right? So while I'm drawing on the picture, and what you can do is you can try to see if you can visualize by your eyes, because it's on the screen. So the idea is we have to draw the 2 lines. There's no calculation needed. The only thing we have to be in mind, I think the only thing you have to keep in mind would be this 1 by 3, right? So 1 by 3, 1 by 3. Each time is horizontal 3 and vertical 1, and then you just extended that. Okay, 3 1, 3 1, 3 1, 3 1. Okay, so we touch this point, so that is 1. Now here, what about that? So here it would be about 1 2, right? So it means right 1 down 1, right 2 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 down 1. Okay, so actually we know the intersection point of the 2 lines. We even can, without calculation, we can read it out. It's 12 4, right? Okay, so then let's continue. So right down 1, right down 1. Oh, it's barely missed the rectangle. So the answer is 1, right? That's problem 7. All right. Now let's move on to problem 6. So this problem is to see, we want to find the biggest one. We have 2 exponents. So how to find the biggest one? The biggest one we can notice that is, so there's a 0. Definitely you cannot put 0 on the bottom, on the base, then the answer result will be 0. So you have to put the 0 on the exponents. But if you put 0 on the exponents, anything to the 0 must be 1, which means this part we probably can ignore. This has to be 1, right? Multiply something. Multiply what things? So 2, 2, 3, right? So we have to make it as big as possible. So what the best way to do is we make it 3 square, because 2 to the power of 3 is 8. 3 square is 9. So that would be the largest one, right? While we put 2 here. So the answer is C. That's problem 6. Finished. Sorry. Now, let's see problem 5. Again, from this AMC8, you can see that ratio is very important thing that appears, I think, especially in the US. They have algebra 1, and they talk a lot about ratios, probably, and fractions. And so this is again about ratios. But so when you write down the numbers in a nice way, I think this is pretty much trivial questions. We have a sample, we have all fishes, and we have special fish called trout. So in the sample, there are 180 fishes, 30 are trout. So what is the relationship? The relationship is times 6, right? So now, if we see that in the lake, right, in the lake, They are 250. So what we do is we just multiply the same ratio times 6, right? So the answer is 256 times 6. 250 times 6 is 1,500, right? So this is really a 30-second question. So after you read out the question, you should be immediately to get the answer. All right, so now next, problem 4. Okay. So problem 4, yes, see, again, this question is just okay. So you write down all the numbers in spiral format. So how many ways does it take? Oh, that's simple, spiral format. You just write it down one by one. But then that takes, first I want to see that how long does it take? It doesn't take too much time, right? So we can put a timer on to see how long does it take. I think it takes less than 30 seconds. You should be able to finish it, right? So that is one way. What is a slightly quicker way? The slightly quicker way is I notice some key numbers. So here is 1, here is 4. You see, where is 9? So 9 is actually here. 9 has to be here, right? Because then they form a 3 by 3. So 9 is here. And after that, you would see where's the next perfect square number, 16. So 16 has to be here, right? And later on, you can do the 25 is here, 49 is here, 36 is here. So kind of like for the perfect square, they lie on the kind of along the diagonal. And with with these kind of cornerstone numbers determined, then it will be easy to write down all the numbers we want, right? So 36, 37, 38, 39. So that would be 16, 17, so 17, 18, 19, and then this would be 23, 25 minus 2, this would be 47. So you know there are how many prime numbers? 3, right? So the answer is 3. So that is problem 4. Now, I'm going to show you this. What do you observe? You can put it on chat. What do you observe? What do you observe in this picture? And how this is related to problem 4? Any?
It's too many.
Yes, some people already mentioned the names of the names of the names of the mathematician, and so one mathematician just write down all the numbers in a spiral format, and to make the meeting more organized. If you have any comments, please put it on chat so that, and I will mention that. And so there's one mathematician just write down all the numbers in this spiral format and label out all the prime numbers. And what you can observe roughly is, right, all the many prime numbers are kind of like in a diagonal format. And that is a very interesting thing. You know, prime numbers is there will be still many unknown conjectures about prime numbers. And one of the most famous one is whether there are infinitely many pair of adjacent odd numbers which are all prime. Yes, and that's good. And I think Adam probably share a picture in the Zoom related to that as well. All right, but for us now, let's continue. Wow, the problem 3 is again longer, right? So we have the whole screen, which is a problem that displayed in 3 formats. However, the question itself is just a simple direct calculation, right? Air temperature. What is air temperature? Air temperature is 36. I mean, we can ignore the unit and then 0.7 times the wind speed. Wind speed is 18. Okay, so what is 18 times 7? I think that is definitely a primary school grade 3 problem. That is 126. You put a dot on it, so that will be 12.6. So that then gives 23.4. Then what is the closest number? The closest number is 23, right? So this is really a piece of cake. Now problem 3 finished, and we have 2 questions to go. And for the next question is these kind of geometry problems. So when you fold the piece of paper twice and you cut it around one corner, how does it look? So when you cut it around one corner, so the way we do it similar as that difficult solid geometry problem. So my way is always I kind of like draw it on the picture to show to show the three-dimensional actions, to show the fold action. So how I start with? So I will start with this 1/4 of the big square, right? So we know that this has been cut it out. So if we unfold for the first time, what happens? If we unfold, then from the middle picture you can see you have to create it's to create a symmetric image with respect to this line, right? So then what you will get that. And then what is the next step? The next step is you have to fold, unfold it down, right? Which means you're creating a symmetric message with respect to that second line. So this is the first, symmetric, this is the second. And when you fold it, actually they are the other way around. Then then you get that. So you know that E is correct answer. So so from this problem 2 and the other, I think that's problem 17 related to the octahedron. So my suggestion is always work on the planes, and then that can help you. Okay, so that's problem 1. All right, so finally, that's problem 2. The finally problem 1, right? So that is definitely how to say it? Grade 2 primary school problem, right? Let's write down one by one. So 32 plus 2 minus 8 plus 8, which is 34 minus 80, 16, that is 18. And finished. Right. So this problem tells us that we need to be careful about the order of this problem tells us the multiplication and the chain are different, right? You switch the two operation signs, you get different results. Okay. All right. So now we finished the discussion of all the problems in about 90 minutes, and hopefully, and the trick and my experience can give you some useful things for your later challenge on mathematical Olympiad competitions. Okay, so now let's guess what would be the cutoff for the top 1% HR, it's called HRD, right? And DHR, and so what is the top 1% for the distinguished honor roll, and what would be the cutoff for the top 5%? Any guess? Yes, I see some guess about 2118, and some people think about 23 plus. And for those of you, if you are in YouTube and Xiaoe, you can put your guess. And so the guess would be the two numbers, and one is top 1%, the other is top 5%. Okay, so I see a bunch of chat, and so here I'm going to show you the statistics. Okay, so definitely we have some some full marks, and for sure, and so based on the statistics of Hong Kong and Macau, if I get the cut of the lines for the HRD and HR, it will be 23 and 19. So in the past, in Hong Kong and Macau, back 5-6 years ago, most of the participants are from international schools, and also international schools encourage everyone to participate in the AMC8. So around that time, so normally there will be, roughly speaking, only about 0.5% of participants can get the top 1%, and probably half, 22.5% of students will get the top 5% award. But gradually, there will be more and more local school students participating in the AMC8, and also international schools tends to give more freedom for students. So probably our group becomes stronger and stronger. So in that sense, in recent years, roughly these local top 1%, 5% will be very similar to the U.S. and Canada top 1% and 5%. And so it looks so then
How
you
do
see
you
the
see a score?
what's your question? You mean the full score? The full score is 25.
Like, how do I see the scores? Because I didn't receive it yet.
And for most of the scores, if you enter by online exam and your system works fine, you already get the scores in Hong Kong and Macau for the paper ones, and also some for someone with technical issues. I think we are going to announce the scores as soon as possible, hopefully early February. And so based on that, I would think because these 23 and 19 are exactly the cutoff line for the 2022 AMC8. But generally speaking, I think this year's question is slightly harder than last year. So that's why if you ask what is my guess, I will see that the cutoff line is 22 and 18. Okay, so I think that we will see whether my guess is correct and you can make your own guess. But anyway, I hope AMC8 would be a fine experience to you. And it's true that not everyone can get the award, but I hope even you don't get the award, you still get something from it. And so that is also the reason why I want to hold such a live session. And yes, you have question you can ask. Now you can speak.
Yes, I want to ask that if I got 18, can I will I have any award or nothing?
So, so that would be only see that in my guess, I think you have a high chance to get the top 5% award, but we have to wait for the MAA to finally announce the cutoff line. So
Okay,
maybe
thank
in a
you.
month's time.
Wait,
All right.
what is
So
top 5%?
there's another
I
question.
also have a question.
Yes, go ahead.
So how many people are participating in Hong Kong this time?
In Hong Kong and Macau, we have slightly more than 1,000 participants.
Oh, okay.
Okay, so for those of you who are in YouTube and WeChat, you can ask you have question, you can put it on chat. And for those in Zoom, if you have questions, you can directly unmute and ask.
Teacher, if I got a 21, do you think it's possible to get BHR for the US?
I have only to see that in my guess. I think probably not, but my guess definitely could be wrong, right? It's so it's hard to see, and also you see that there's only 25 26 possible scores, right? So this could be it could be quite tricky, right? So maybe up to 21. So there is already up to 22. There are actually only 4.5% of students up to 22. Then the MAA may determine that okay, so we'll award 21 as the top 1% as well, and then maybe 21 they have 3% of students got 21, right? So actually, right? So sorry, maybe up to let's see up to score 22 there's only 0.9% of students, while there's 1% of students that got 21. So they may say okay, so we will include 21, but then after you include 21 it actually means that it's not really top 1%, it's actually maybe top 1.5% of 1.6%, similar for the top 5% case. All right, so this it's of course it's also hard to guess, and because also it depends on how many students really participating in the U.S. and as we also I think we also have some kind of like slight format modification from the last 2 years given the pandemic. Yeah. All right. So if there's no more question,
Teacher.
yes, go ahead.
Like after you explain the question, I'm screenshotting all the questions, but I missed on number 23. Could you scroll back to number 23 so I can quickly screenshot it?
Yes, you can, but because we are going to have to play back, I don't want to make the playback too messy. And so what you do is you can through the YouTube link and or the WeChat link, and you can get the playback fairly quick. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
What is HRD and HR stand for?
So I'm not sure whether I actually do the right spelling. So one is that in MAA there are three awards. The first award is for actually there are four awards. So who got the perfect score, they will get a certificate, and who got the top 1% among, I think the statistic normally would be among within the USA and Canada. And so there will be one award, which is here I write as HRD, and then HR would be the top 5%. Well, for those of you who are in grade 6 or below, if you get 15, and if you get 15 points, you are going to also get an award for the lower grade students' performance. Yeah.
Wait, so oh, that's nice.
Yes. So which means yes. So I need to do more explanation about AMC so to encourage more lower grade students to participate in the AMC8. All right. So if there's no question, so I'm going to end the meeting. So now it's still the Chinese New Year holiday here in Hong Kong, and so wish you a fruitful year of rabbit. Bye bye.
Excuse me.
Yes,
Where will playback be?
I think the playback will be available in YouTube as well as in Xiaoe, and the link should be the same. Okay. All right. Bye bye.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye bye.
Have a great
Thank
day.
you.